Okay, so in Python, there are three methods to read a file, and those methods are very simple. One is read, simple read method or function, you can say. Then there is a method called read line, and then there is a function called read lines. Okay, it's plural. So these three methods are there, and any file, whatever you are going to read it, uh, so there are a few steps which you have to follow. So let's see. So here I have a data.txt file which have 9 lines and some sample lines there. Okay, and I wanted to read that. So I'm going to explain the very first method called read. So this method have its pros and cons. What are those? We will see that. So very first time like is the line which is going to read. To read any file, we have to open it first. Okay, so let's say this is a variable. We sometimes call it file handler as well. And open, there is a function called open, and the path, whatever the path of for your file. So for my file, it's data.txt in the same directory. So I'll give data.txt, and then there is a mode. In what mode you want it to open? Okay, so Python supports read mode, which is represented as R, write mode, which is represented as W, then append mode, which is represented as A, and there are few more. We are not going to there. So we wanted to read it, so better to use as a read mode. Okay, it's always a good idea to like put a mode as well, because sometimes suppose you don't want to write it, only wanted to read it. But suppose if I open it with write mode, if my program will like have some problem, it might write which will corrupt my file. So always remember to put a mode whatever you really need. Okay, so I have put as a read mode, and then I wanted to read the content. So let me say like content equal to, now the fh, the because this is the file handler, and then I'll use the function called read. Okay, this will read the whatever the content my data.txt is having. Okay, and if I'm going to print it, you see the content. This is the content of my file. Okay, so if I come here, so this is the sample data file, and last line is happy learning. The same you can see here, this is a sample data file, and last line is happy learning, and whatever the other lines are there. Okay, now what are the, and after printing it, always remember to close that, close the file. So how you have to close? Fh dot, there is a method called close. Always use that, don't leave it open. Okay, once you are done, close the file handler. This is, here we can say like closing the file. Okay, so this is the method. Now let's see few more methods. So I'm going to make a change here only within this program only. So let's see like what is the length, whatever the content is there, I wanted to know what is the length. Okay, so let me so if uh, first of all, okay, before that, first of all, I wanted to see what is the type of this content. Okay, what kind of data type it is, data type it is. So let me put that. So data type, and then I'll put the function is type divided to get any data type, right? So I have put a type content. Now the second, I wanted to, let's say, I wanted to know what is the length of my data. Okay, so I'll say for length, there is a function called len, right? And then, yeah, let's run this on. So if you see, the data type is str. Okay, str is nothing but a string, and the length of string is 284. Now, when it's a string, so whatever the length it returns, that means the number of characters. Remember that. Okay, when the data type is the string, it's always a number of character. So let's say I wanted to print 5 character only. So can anyone tell me first 5 character, how I have to write it? We can use a string methods. First 5 character, let's say this. Okay, and let me run it. So you can see that this, there is extra space. So all the spaces, all the new line will also be count. Remember that. Okay, so let me make it 10. So now this is a, okay. So all the space is also a 1 character. Okay, the new line is also a 1 character. So it will count everything. So when you see simply this, so you, if you suppose you say 4 to 6, 7, and then so on, that's wrong, because the space is also a character. Okay, then there is a new line entered here, right? So that is also a character which is hidden from our eyes, but program treat it as a character. So remember that. So these 284 characters includes all the spaces. So let's try it out one thing. Let me add 4 extra spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have added 4 spaces, and let me add one more, 2 more extra lines. Okay, so 4 plus 2, 6. I have added 6 character. Let's see if it becomes 290 approximately. Okay, now you see it's 290. Okay, so it always like include all the spaces, all the new line characters. Okay, always remember to close the file. But so this function, as I explained before, this function have its pros and cons. So pros is like you can read the whole file in one go, as you have seen. Simply open file and read it without any issue. And the same thing is the con. The con is, suppose the file is huge. Suppose suppose it's few MBs or maybe few GBs file sizes. Then your program will kind of break in that case. Sometimes because what it do, I'll tell you what it do. It will read the whole file and keep it into the memory. And what memory? Obviously your RAM, your system RAM. If you are running on a server, then the server RAM. Okay, so suppose there is a file size, let's say suppose your system is having 2 GB of RAM. Okay, and there is a file is 2 GB or 3 GB file is there. If you read it via this method, your program will hang, your program will not respond. The reason is your system is having only 2 GB. You are trying to read, suppose 2.5 GB of file, and it will read the whole file and put it into memory. And obviously you don't have that much of memory. So read method is very good if you know that the files are small, but it's bad if the files are huge. Okay, that's why we usually don't prefer to use the read method. But yeah, when we know like it's a very simple file, maybe 10 or 20 lines or 100 lines are there, then it's okay to use read. To avoid this like problem, there is a function called read line. Okay, this function, second function. Now this, how this function works, it's this function works this way. So what you have to do, obviously you have to read the file this way. Okay, so I'm going to read it. Once that is done, I can create a while infinite loop, okay, which is while true. And here I can read a line equal to fh dot read line. Okay. So, and then what I'm going to do, so I'm going to put a one quick condition. Let's say here I'm going to print line. And what I'm going to do here, I wanted to just make one change so that we will know like this is what I have read. Okay, so let me say I'll put a Z character at end. Okay, and then yeah, let's run it. Oh, something is not right. Okay, so the condition is not true. Sorry, this way. Okay, now let's see what's happened here. Oh, before that, let me close it. Okay, now how this is working, let's see. Obviously, we have opened a file handler with this like read and fh. Then I have created a infinite loop. And remember that whenever you create an infinite loop, always remember to put a break statement as well. The exit strategy. Okay, so here the exit strategy is this. Okay, so what it is doing, I'll explain. While true, obviously means always true. The very first time read the line. Okay, once the line is read, just check. And obviously, if the line is there, this line variable will have some value. So it will go for if. So it is checking whether line is having some value or not. If it is having, then it will proceed. It will print the line and print hyphen ZZZ. And so this loop will continue till the time line doesn't have anything. So at very last line, obviously after the last line there will be nothing in the line. Okay, then this if block will get true and the function will break, and here you will like close the file. Let's see what's happening. So this is the file. Okay, fine. Then remember that when I'm reading the file, I'm reading the new line character as well. Okay, so that's why when you see hyphen zz, the hyphen zz is coming into new line, not in the same line. Okay, then there is extra space which you can see here. There is extra space here. Okay, so that space is there. This is space, then zz came. Then the another space is there. So another space, so not a space, the new line is there, then zz come here. Then you have read which we want to read by this, then the next line, and so on. Now, there is a difference between here, this read method and read line method. What's the difference? Let's see that as well. So what I'm going to do, so this is the to print the whole line, means all the lines. Okay, but remember that read line will only read. So this will read one line at a time. Here, it will read whole file one go. Okay, and here it will reading one file at a time. And this is the benefit. Suppose if your file is huge, so much of memory it is needed, suppose it's 3 GB of file, but it will not read the whole file in one go. It will read one line, wait for you, then it will read another line. Obviously, it depends how you have coded your program. So here what's happening, it will reading one line, then it is printing that line, then going back again, then reading another line, then going back again and again, again, again. Okay, so let's do some little calculation here. So I'm creating a count variable. Okay, and what I'm doing, I'm increasing the count here. Sorry, count equal to count plus 1. So every time when the file is there, it will increase the count, or maybe I'll put it beside below print. Okay, and then here outside I'm going to print the total number of lines. Total number of lines is 11. Why 11? We can see only, oh, there are 11. Okay, so it's 11 line. Okay, so the difference is read will read the whole file as in one go, and the type of output is a string type. Okay, but here let's see the type as well, but it will repeat again and again, so I don't want to, but doesn't matter. Such type of line. Okay, something is not right. That's also belongs to str. Okay, so but it is reading one line at a time. So one line, then it will print it. Obviously we are printing here, then we are calculating the count, and then like we are checking whether it's a what kind of data type it is. Okay, so let me comment it out and run it away. Okay, so or maybe what we can do, we can print each line's length, how many characters are there. Okay, so in simple terms, len, and let me put it like length of this line. Okay, and then run it. So if you see, uh, let me remove this z, it's confusing. Okay, so this is a sample file. Length of this line is 32 characters. Okay, okay, then there is a space, so new line. So obviously new line is treated as a one character. Then there is another new line, it is treated as a one character. Then the another line, it have total 47 characters. Okay, so but the good thing is it will take very less memory. Okay, because it is reading one line at a time, one line at a time, and that's it. Now, so that's the good thing about it. Then there is a third method called read lines. This is pretty much same as read method. So let's go there. Let's see that how it works. This will also do the same thing. It will read the whole file as in one go, but via the lines. So if you see here, what it did, the data type of output is list. So remember that previously it was a string. It read the whole file as a string. Here it read the whole file as a list. Total elements in the list is 11. Okay, and if I print the very first 5 line, so if you see, so what it does, it have created a list and it have put one line as a one element, then second line as a in the second place, third line in the third place, and so on. Okay, so if you see here, I have clicked like :5, so it will print very first 5 line. So this is the first line, then this is the second line, which is a new line character, then third line, this is the fourth line, and this is the fifth line. Okay, so read lines will read the whole file as a line, a list of lines. Okay, and here the read method will read whole file as a list of characters. Okay, so whatever suits us for our work, we choose that. But remember that here also read lines is reading the whole file. So the problem is same here as well. Suppose if your file is big, then you might your program might not be able to read the file because you don't have that much of memory. Okay, when you know that like, or suppose when you are not certain like what is the size of your file, always choose this method, read line by line. Okay. Now coming to one more, so this is actually so this way, we have seen three methods: read, read line, read lines. Every method have its pros and cons. Choose wisely, like what, which one you wanted to prefer. There with the Python, as Python is progressing, there is a new way to read the files, and that's now the more popular way, you can say, when you have to read line by line, means this way. So we can say there is an enhanced or maybe improved way of writing this is available, which you have to use is this. So how you have to open the file, and remember that whenever you open a file, you always have to close the file as well. Okay, so we can avoid that scenario by using this method. How you have to do it? This method, with open, then the file name. Okay, with start with, okay, with open, then the file name, as, and then I'll put my the file handler. Then if I suppose, so this is the done, then the very interesting thing, print. Okay, so this is like, so handler is there now. Now let's read the file. So suppose lines, remember, fh dot read lines, and then here I'll say print lines, and that's it. So with this method, you have seen I don't have to use fh close. Okay, this method is always preferred, because usually what happens when we write, when we open the file, sometimes we tend to forget this statement. And really, suppose if you do if you are doing very less, obviously on our on every system have a limited number of open file. It's more of a OS, how the OS behave. So have every OS have a limit, like how many files it can open. So suppose if I'm going to run this program without closing, okay, again and again, again and again, and so after some time I will hit the limit, and when I hit the limit, I will not be able to read any other file, I'll not able to open any other file. That's why this close line is very important. In our system, when we are learning, it doesn't matter as such, but when we are working on server side, when our program is going to run suppose 100,000 times, then it matters, because there is a limit with each OS how many files it can. So file must be closed when you are done with that. We tend to forget it, as we are human. That's why this method comes. This method, it's very unique, as you have seen. Like it doesn't require the fh.close statement, and you can do a lot of stuffs here. Okay, the same way, suppose you wanted to read line by line, so you can do that as well. So for line by line read, so what you can do, rather than writing a for loop, what you can do, sorry, rather than writing a while loop, what you can do, for line in, okay, fh, print line. Let me remove that and run it. And let me remove these extra spaces from here as well. And let me run it. So if you see, this is a sample file, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So if you see this, you can read this way as well. If you notice one thing, there is a one slight difference you will see. And what is that? I'll explain how that, why that is happening. So okay, so first let me do that. Okay, so actually this program, this line is same as this line, if you see. Okay, so you don't have to write like read lines to make a list. You can directly read from file handler. And you if you see the difference, there is a difference is the extra new line you are seeing right now. And why you are seeing that, I'll explain that. So whenever a print statement run, it always add a new line at the end automatically. Okay, and if you see our lines is already have a new line. That's why there is two line added, and that's why you see a gap there. Yes, after every line there is a gap. Okay, so we can simply avoid this by modifying our print statement, and it's okay. Okay, so this is a method to read any file. You can now, suppose if you are reading this way and you wanted to process something. Okay, so it's very easy to do that. So let's say, so I'm reading the file. Let me comment it out here, and I wanted to, let's say I wanted to count how many lines are there. The same thing, simple way, cnt equal to 0, and here I'll say cnt equal to cnt plus 1, and here I'll say print cnt. It says 9 line, which is correct. Okay, if I suppose wanted to capitalize the line and then wanted to print it, so you know that line is nothing but a string. So if I do sorry, not this type of line, so you see all are string. So line is nothing but a string. So let's say I wanted to print but in a caps order, like in sorry, in a yeah, all the letters should be capital. So how I can do that, like print and then line dot papa. So you can see all the lines are caps now. We can comment it out for the time being. Okay, so all the lines are caps. You can do other stuff as well. Let's say I wanted to know how many words are there. Okay, so print. Now check for counting the word. There is a very nice method available, is count. So line dot count, or to identify how many words are there, you have to like you have to give like this is, suppose uh, this is a line and you wanted to know how many words are there. So logically every word is separated with one simple space. So I'll give like how many spaces are there. That's a crude way. Again, that's not the right way, but a crude way to do that. So it is printing like there is a 9 word in first line, 8 word in second line, 7, and so on, little bit. Okay, so that's a crude way to do that. But there is another way to do that, is you can split the string. So how you can do, words equal to line dot split. If I do suppose print words, now it will split the line in and create a list of each word. As you can see here, each word is as a uh, list now. Okay, now I can count print line of, or let me simplify it. So I'm counting here line, and here let's say I'm counting words. So plus line of words. Okay, and here I'm printing, and here there are total 9 line and 57 words in this whole file. Okay, so with this options like with and the for loop, you have a access on each line in the file, and then you can process your each line as you want. There is no problem at all. Okay, so you can process whatever you wanted to do, you can do that and print it, or maybe you wanted to write it somewhere, so you can write it as well. Okay, so this is the way you can read the file. Now I'm jumping again to how you can write a file. Okay, the method is pretty much same, uh, with only one difference, the mode difference. Okay, so let me do that. So let me say like there is a word one equal to, let's say, one line. Okay, then suppose there is a word, another word called two. Okay, I wanted to write this, so what I'll do this. Now only changes here, it will be w. Okay, and I'm modifying the file name as well. I don't want to overwrite, so data write.txt. Then there is a method called fh.write. Okay, and then I'll say word1, and I'll say fh.write word2. Okay, and so as soon as I hit, you can see here a data.write.txt, data underscore write.txt came, and it have one line and two. And if you see what it, when it is writing, it doesn't, it is not adding a new line character. Okay, so to add new line character, we can either write it down this way. Sorry. Okay, so now there is a new line. Okay, so we have to add, or what we can do here only, rather than doing this, we can simply add here, because it's a string, we know that. Simply add here the new line. That will also do the same thing. Okay, so let me delete this file, and then run it again. So this is the new file. Okay, so just remember one thing: if you open the file as a write mode, it will always write. Okay, it doesn't matter. Suppose if I write it down here, I'll add one more line, few lines I have added here, save it. Okay, and if I run the program again, and I'm going to check it again, the file, not this. Okay, and then I'm going to open the file. You see, whatever the line I have added, that's gone. So write method always overwrite. Okay, to always overwrite whatever is there. Then there is a method called append. That's the slide change a. Okay, it will do the append part. Okay, so if I run 2-3 times, let's say, okay, and then I'm going to open it, so you can see. Okay, so the space problem is there, so it's not a space problem, the new line problem. So let me do that. I'll come to your question, Trian. Okay, so suppose I'm running this 2-3 times, and I'll see again. So you can see one line, one line, one line, one line. Okay, so append, always append. So that's another way to write it. There is a, like, usually when you ask user to write it, you don't use a predefined words. So usually you ask user to enter something, right? So what you can do with open, obviously, And then suppose, let's say you ask, while you can ask user to enter some input. Okay, so let me do that here. Okay, so while true, okay, line equal to input enter a line. Okay, you are asking user to enter a line. Okay, and then what you are doing, what you can do here is, it's very simple. uh First of all, here I'll create a list. Okay, I'm showing you some another way to write it down. So what I'm going to do here, so line has been inserted. I'm going to uh, append this line, content dot append. So I'm creating a list, whatever the line user is entering. Okay, so enter a line, or here I'll put a method like press Q to exit. Okay, and then the very first I'm checking if line double equal to Q, then break, else content dot append line. It will go on, it will keep going on. Okay, so that's the while loop is done here. And here what I can do outside with open file, suppose write to.txt in write mode, and I'll do fh dot write lines. Okay, remember that lines, and then I'll simply pass this list. Okay, and when I hit enter, so it is asking enter a line. Let me write suppose 1, enter a line, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this is I, me, you, and let's say Q. Okay, as soon as I'm done, there is a file created here, file write.txt, but it is having all in one. So we have to enhance our program. How we can enhance? When we are appending the line, I'll add the new line character as well, plus new line character here. Now I'll run it again. So this is the first line Q. Let's see this. Let me reopen this. So you can see this is the first line. Okay, so this is the way you can write any content. So we have seen the write mechanism, read mechanism, append mechanism, and obviously writing, I don't think writing is not that much required in day-to-day life. Whatever I have experienced till now, we don't have to write a lot, but we have to read a lot. Because writing, as you have seen, for writing a program, it's very simple. It's 2 line of program to write it down. Create a list of all the lines and simply use the write lines method and simply append that list, and it will write down your file. So writing a file is very easy and simple, but reading a file is always a trickier part, because file can be big, file can be small. So based on that, you have to take a decision what method I have to use, whether I have to use read line or read lines, or maybe read. Okay, don't use this normal open way, fh equal to open data.txt, because if you use this, there is no problem with this method. But if you use this, you always have to remember there is a, I have to close the file as well. That's why a good way to read or write a file is with clause with, and then you can proceed whatever you wanted to do. Okay, so this is the way like you can read and write files down the line. Like when you suppose you have to read the files, so you can read, suppose this is sorry, some problem is there. Suppose this is a one text file is there, or data.csv. It have lots of line. Okay, so it's having near around 3000 line. Okay, obviously I don't want to read the whole file in one go, so I'll prefer the same logic with, so with open, the file name is data.csv as fh. Okay, then I'll say, let's say for line in fh, I'm making a count like how many lines are there, the same program. So to print that there are 3061 line is there. So 60, and it will add a one extra new line, so it will counting 3061. Okay, so this is the best way, because here I'm reading line one by one, so there is no problem. If it doesn't matter whether my system is have less memory or a bigger memory, I can read any file with this for loop logic. Okay, now I'll quickly jump to the path mechanism. So remember that the file is not always going to be in your directory where your program exists. Okay, so you have to know, suppose if the file exists in C drive and your program exists in suppose D drive. So how you are going to do that? Okay, so there is a libraries available to traverse that thing. And those libraries are called OS. There is a library called OS, and there is a library called pathlib. Okay, these two libraries plays a very important role. So let's see. I wanted to know what is my current working directory. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give is as a name. Okay, P. Okay, I wanted to know what is my current directory. So there is a method available. Okay. So P, because pathlib, I imported as a like alias. So P dot path dot CWD. So it will give me my current directory where my program is running. So if you see here, so my program is running inside D drive, blah, 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 Python workshop and class 10. Okay. The same way, if I wanted to know what is my home, okay. So home directory, that is C user tool. And obviously in Linux it will be different, in Mac it will be different. So this, with this library, the benefit, it already automatically detects like what library, what kind of OS you are using. So if you see here Windows path, if you see here uh, Windows path, in your case it might be Mac, it might be Linux. Okay, so forget about, feel free about it. Now another thing, suppose if I wanted to create a file at a particular location, I don't want to create here and there. So you can do that. You can create your directory structure. Okay. But before that, let's say how OS works, OS library works. So OS check. Uh, so suppose, very first time, like suppose I wanted to create a directory here. Okay. In my local repo in the same place. So p dot, one sec, mkdir. Okay, so make directory and let me give a name. Let's say I am giving name, suppose poems. Okay, so if you see here at left hand side, there is no directory exists says poems. Okay, let me run it. Something is not right, let me, So this method is creating a problem. Why so? Let me try this way. Just give me a sec. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Test folder has been created. Okay. So before using this method, I have to give a full path, and that's why I have to use this. So let's see how this works. Before that, so it's pretty simple. Like suppose I wanted to create in my current working directory. That's why I have chosen p.path.cwd. That will give me my current working directory. Then slash, obviously because I wanted to create inside this directory, and then I wanted to create a test folder. So let's see. I'm simply printing what folder is having. So if you see, the new folder name will be blah 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 and then test folder. Okay, the same way I can design any other folder. Okay, so let me say let's poems. Okay, and I'll do. Okay. So you can see now it create a full path name poems, and then I can run this function mkdir folder 2 p dot path.mkdir folder 2. I'll explain why the error is, because this folder, the very first folder already exists. So let me delete it for the time being, then I'll tell you how we can remove that error. Okay, run it. So it ran 2 times. You can see poems folder has been created and test folder has been created. But if I'm going to run it again, it will throw me error because it says that cannot create a file or actually a folder. That folder already exists. Obviously test folder already exists. So to avoid that, there is a this attribute available where you can say like if exist, then okay, no problem. If you put this, if I run it again, there is no problem at all. So let me delete it once again. Delete, delete, and let me run it again. So ran, as soon as I ran, poems and test folder has been created. Let me run it again. It will not throw me a error. Okay, because I have given a permission like, okay, if it exists, don't worry, please proceed. So this is the way to you can create a directory mkdir. Okay, then suppose inside the directory you wanted to create a file. So what you can do, file equal to the same way the poems. Obviously you have to give a whole name. Okay, and then suppose I'll say poems .txt. This will be my file name. Okay, and I'll now use with open file mode equal to w as fh. Okay, and I'll say fh dot, I'm not going to write anything. So this is sample line, let's say, and run it. It ran. Let me see if poems have any file. Poems have a file called poems.txt. If I open it, the content is there. Okay, so this pathlib library, this pathlib library is very good to to create a folder, to create a new file, and all that. So suppose, so it's, so as you know that you need you always don't need to like create a folder of files in the current location. You might have to create in other location, and that's the place where this comes into the picture. These libraries comes into the picture. So, and the good thing with this is uh, there is you don't have to worry about your environment. Like, see, suppose if you are running the same line uh, in Mac system, it automatically detects, okay, this is a Mac system. In Mac system, if you see, the file name have this way. The file names are this, like backslash is there for a directory. So always start with the root directory, and then sorry, not this way, this way, sorry, that is backslash in Windows. So this is the root directory, or maybe suppose your home directory. Suppose you wanted to create a folder, let's say Atul, and then you wanted to create a text.txt file. There is no problem at all, because this path is capable of detecting what kind of OS you are using. If you give this way, it will automatically change it to this way. So that is the beauty of this path library. It will automatically detect, it automatically decide what kind of slash I have to use, and it will create your files or folders. Okay, so so it's very good pathlib. But to check, like suppose if the file is already existing, so there is a method available in OS library called OS walk. So OS dot walk, okay, and let's say I'll say dot slash poems. Okay, not this way. No, I'm missing the method actually. It's walk. Let me quickly check. Oh, path dot exist is there. Okay, my mistake. It's not the walk. It's OS OS dot path dot exist. So it will check that particular folder or file is available or not. So it says that obviously in current file, in the current directory, there is no POEMS. Now it's exist. Okay, so it will check in the current directory whether this path exists or not. Suppose if I give this name, obviously that doesn't exist. If it, so you can create a logical decision based on it. Suppose ask is, if directory exists, then create a file inside the directory. If directory doesn't exist, then create the directory, then create the file inside it. Okay, so that kind of logic can be there, and you can use OS library to first check whether that directory exists or doesn't exist, and you can proceed from there. So so I have put these methods, like how you can use it. But before, so you can go through with the Jupyter Notebook. But before that, I'll quickly jump on a try or exception block with the file read method. So whenever you read any file, don't read a file like simply this way. The reason is, what if suppose that file doesn't exist? Okay, so you have to manage that as well. So let me copy this and put it here, run it. Oh, it's exist, there is no problem. But let me say data111.txt, and it will fail. It will say no such file or directory, data111.txt. And so the same question arises here as well. You don't want your program to break. Okay, so usually whenever we read file, we use file with always a try catch block, or not try catch, actually try except block. Okay, or any simple way this. Okay, so it will proper give you a output. If you see, it is still giving me the same error whatever I am seeing the before, but it's very gentle now because it is not breaking my program. It's trying it out. If file exists, then okay. If not, then it is proceeding. Suppose if I here do suppose a equal to 1 plus 2, and here suppose I'll say print a, it is printing 3. Means once this try and accept is done, it is proceeding with the program. It is proceeding with the program and printing me that final output value. But if I use simple this section, it will break the whole logic. You will see the error and it will break your program. So whenever you read a file or write a file, always use try and accept, and then you can read and write file from there. Okay, so this is all about a file. I have put more example in this Jupyter notebook. I'll upload it, go through with it, try it out. If you face any problem, let me know. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to put uh, 3 problems, and those I'm telling you, those were not going to be simple. You have to give it a thought. You have to think like whatever you have learned till now, like maybe the list, maybe the dictionary, uh, those will be using there. So think about it, how you can use those data type. And so it will be so you have to think like how whether it's require a while loop or I can do in for loop, whether a list can suffice here or the dictionary, what kind of maybe the string methods I have to use. So the program will be big enough. So break it down into small chunks, code it, then bring it together and try to see like whether you are able to write a program or not. Okay, if not, then we will see in another class. We will go through with one of the example, whatever you see little tough, we will go through. We will see like how exactly you have to write a program at very start at least. Okay, so I think that is all from today.